In this video, we see how the price is written back to the original range created zone or the pivot created zone, and how it reacts and how it came back exactly at that point. So the first one is the range created supply. The price creates a range exactly at this point. It creates a range. You can see that there is a heavy volume comes into the market exactly at this point. Then you have to see that how the price reacts to come back exactly at this range created supply. You can see here the price is came back in a rounded return form, right? So this is the corrective wave. This is not the impulsive wave. So from this point, you can take a trade from the seller's side, right? You can see that price creates a liquidity and the price is came back in the rounded return. So if there is a rounded return, you can go with seller's side, right? So the next one is the corrective return. Price creates a range and suddenly the volume comes into the market in the downward direction and the price came back again in the corrective return. This is the rounded return. This is our corrective return. So price came back in a corrective return exactly at the range created supply. Now from this equilibrium price again going into the downward direction. So this is called the range created supply and this is the corrective return. Now this is the case where you have to be careful while you place a trade in the market. This is the V reversal return. Price creates a range. There is a sudden volume come into the market. You can see that this is the heavy volume exactly at this point and price suddenly came back exactly at this point, then this is a risky trade because there is also impulsive wave exactly at this point. So you have to be very careful while you place a trade. There is no impulsive wave comes in the return form. The return form must be a corrective form. Either it is a rounded return or the corrective return. It should not be an impulsive wave, right? So this is the range created supply and this is a very risky trade. If you find any return like this, don't trade into that market. So now same price creates a range. Suddenly the buyer's volume enter into the market. Price came back in a rounded return and from the fair value, you can take a trade in the buyer's direction. Now price creates a range, buyer's volume, price came back in a corrective wave. So this is the corrective return and you can see that price creates a liquidity exactly at this point. In rounded return, it creates a liquidity exactly at this point. After corrective return, you can take a trade exactly at fair value to the buyer's side. Now this is the scenario where you have to be careful. Price creates a range, heavy volume, it suddenly came back exactly at this point. The return or corrective wave is not impulsive. If it is impulsive, you have to be careful to take a trade into the market. So now we discuss about the pivot supply and the pivot demand, right? So we start with the first one. There is a sharp move in the upward direction and true expansion in the downward direction. So this is our pivot point. This is our pivot supply. Now price came back in a rounded return. You can see here there is a rounded return exactly at this point. You can take a trade in the downward direction. Price builds a liquidity at this point. Now again you can see that in a corrective return, price is came back in a corrective form. From the fair value, you can take another trade in the downward direction, right? So this is also a pivot supply. Now you have to be careful at this point. If you find any V-shape recovery or V-shape reversal return, you have to be careful to take a trade into the market. It's also apply in range or pivot. Both are the same, but you have to be careful. If the reversal is highly impulsive, then you have to be careful. Now same for the demand side. There is a sharp move in the downward direction, true expansion in the upward direction. We can take a trade if the return move is rounded or a corrective, then we can take a trade in the upward direction from the fair value, right? If it is a V-shape recovery or you can say V-shape reversal return, then you have to be careful. Now I tell you something very important. So if price creates a range or pivot, anything it creates exactly at this point, right? Now you can see that prices creates a range and suddenly it moves into the downward direction. If it breaks this range, then this move is must be impulsive. If this move is in corrective form and the return form is impulsive, then you have to be careful to take a trade into the downward direction because this move is not trustable. This move must be an impulsive move, not a corrective move. Corrective move you can find when the price came back exactly at this point. So this is the case where you have to be careful. Price must be in a corrective wave in the written form. This is the scenario where you can trust on the trade, right? If you find that price is written not in an impulsive way, if it breaks in a corrective form, then if the return move is strong, then you don't need to take a trade in the downward direction. There must be a chance price must be going the upward direction. So this is not the case. This move must be impulsive move. This is the correct situation. This is not a trustable situation, right? So we will see the application of this rounded return, corrective return in our next video.